Today we're diving deep into one of the most chilling maritime mysteries ever, the Olympic and Titanic conspiracy. Was the ill-fated Titanic really the Olympic in disguise? Let's set sail into this intriguing tale of two ships. Built by the Harland and Wolff shipyard in Belfast, the Olympic and Titanic were the star jewels of the White Star Line, touted as the largest and most luxurious ships of their time. Launched in 1911 and 1912 respectively, these sister ships were nearly identical in design and grandeur, but met vastly different fates. Let's explore these floating palaces and the era that brought them to life. The theory begins with a premise. What if the Titanic never sank? According to some, the ship that hit an iceberg in April 1912 was actually the Olympic, disguised as its sister to collect insurance money. This intriguing theory is rooted in the troubled history of the Olympic, which had already been involved in multiple accidents prior to the Titanic's maiden voyage. In September 1911, just months after its launch, the Olympic collided with the British warship HMS Hawke, causing serious structural damage to Olympic's hull and frame, a costly and reputation-damaging incident. Repairs required significant financial resources and time, during which the ship couldn't generate revenue. Further incidents, such as striking a sunken wreck in 1912, only added to its woes. These misfortunes set the stage for desperate measures. Proponents of the swap theory argue that the beleaguered Olympic was rebranded as the Titanic in a last-ditch effort to recoup losses through insurance fraud. This theory points to subsequent repairs and modifications made under the guise of routine maintenance, suggesting that these were actually preparations for the swap. Proponents of the swap theory point to several intriguing discrepancies and circumstantial evidence that seem to support their claims. Let's delve deeper into why some believe this swap could have made sense. The White Star Line faced significant financial pressure after the Olympics accidents, particularly the costly collision with HMS Hawke in 1911. This incident left the Olympic needing extensive repairs, leading to lost revenue from out-of-service time. The theory suggests that swapping the damaged Olympic with the brand-new Titanic could have been a strategic move to claim the insurance money on the newer, more valuable vessel. Observers note that there were noticeable differences in the porthole arrangement and the number of portholes between the Olympic after its repair and the Titanic during its maiden voyage. Specifically, the spacing and alignment of these portholes are said to match the Olympic rather than the original design of the Titanic. Some former Harland Wolff workers, years after the disaster, allegedly claimed that they were pressured into participating in the swap, threatened with job losses, or worse if they spoke out. While these accounts are anecdotal and largely unverified, they add a layer of human intrigue to the theory. Theorists also point to irregularities in shipyard records during the period leading up to the Titanic's departure. There were rushed and partially obscured updates in the ship's logs and construction records, suggesting possible manipulation or alterations. Unlike typical practice for White Star Line vessels, the Titanic's sea trials were reportedly brief and less rigorous than expected, which some speculate could have been to avoid exposing any underlying issues from the Olympic that could not be fully repaired. This combination of financial gain, physical discrepancies, eyewitness stories, record anomalies, and unusual handling of sea trials constructs a narrative that, for some, seems too coincidental to dismiss outright. These elements suggest that the swap, while logistically and ethically dubious, could have been perceived as a necessary measure under financial and corporate pressure. While the swap theory captures the imagination, several logistical, technical, and ethical reasons make skeptics doubt its feasibility. Let's explore why many experts and historians dismiss the possibility of such a swap. The Olympic and Titanic, though sister ships, had subtle but significant structural differences that would have been difficult and time-consuming to modify. For example, the Olympic had a differently configured promenade deck, which underwent changes after its collision with HMS Hawke. Modifying the Titanic to match these alterations would have required extensive and visible construction, not easily hidden from the numerous shipyard workers and inspectors present during their fitting out. The logistics of swapping two massive ocean liners and keeping it a secret among hundreds of shipyard workers, suppliers, and crew members seem implausible. Such an operation would have required the complicity of too many individuals, increasing the risk of leaks. The White Star Line would have risked their business and reputation on a deception detectable by any number of people involved in the ship's daily operations. Ships like the Olympic and Titanic were subject to rigorous documentation and inspection by multiple parties, including maritime insurers and regulatory bodies. Any significant changes or replacements of parts would have been recorded and noticed in the logs, which were regularly reviewed. Many of the surviving crew members from the Titanic knew the ship intimately and never reported any discrepancies that would suggest they were on a different ship. Their testimonies about the layout and features of the Titanic match the specifications and blueprints of the ship that was supposed to have left Southampton. The economic benefit of swapping the ships is also under scrutiny. The Titanic was insured for just over its value, not enough to make a fraudulent swap worthwhile considering the risk involved. Additionally, the Olympic went on to serve for many years after the Titanic's sinking, which would be an unlikely risk for a ship allegedly damaged beyond reliable repair. These factors contribute to a strong consensus among historians and maritime experts that the swap theory, while intriguing, is not supported by practical realities of shipbuilding, maritime law, and corporate practice at the time. Regardless of the ship's true identity, the sinking of the Titanic remains one of the greatest peacetime maritime disasters in history. It changed maritime laws, influenced ship design, and left a haunting legacy. This conspiracy theory adds a layer of intrigue, but also a reminder of the human stories lost in the cold waters of the Atlantic. Before we wrap up, I'd like to share a bit of my own journey with this historical enigma. My fascination with the Titanic began as a child, and it grew into a lifelong intrigue. When I first encountered the swap theory in my early 20s, I was captivated. The story as it was told to me seemed so plausible, so undeniably convincing, that I accepted it without question. However, as I ventured into my 50s, my perspective shifted. I've come to understand that the essence of the Titanic story isn't about which ship sank or whether there was a cursed mummy aboard. It's not even about unraveling a potential insurance fraud. The true heart of this tale lies in its human aspect, the real-life heroes and indeed the flawed humans like J. Bruce Ismay, who saved himself while others perished. This story, steeped in tragedy and heroism, reminds us of the profound human spirit in the face of catastrophe. It challenges us to think critically about the narratives we accept and the memories we choose to honour. So, as we consider the mystery of the Titanic and the Olympic, Let us never forget the individuals who lived, the heroes who emerged, and the lessons that this moment in history teaches us about humanity and survival. As we conclude, it's essential to remember that whether it was the Titanic or the Olympic that sank that fateful night, the real tragedy lies in the loss of 1,496 innocent lives. Their stories and the lessons learned from this disaster must not be overshadowed by theories and speculation. Thank you for exploring this historical mystery with us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, keep questioning history.